The sky above the Pacific Ocean split open without warning. One moment it was empty blue stretching to the horizon. The next a ship hung there, silent, dark, and impossibly large. It did not roar or flash. It simply appeared like a thought made real. Below, on the United Nations Space Command Station circling Earth, alarms stayed quiet. No missiles launched. No panic spread through the comms. Instead, radar technician Kyle Dawson blinked at his screen, rubbed his eyes, and whispered, "What in the world?" He called it in right away. His voice stayed calm, but his fingers trembled as he typed coordinates into the system. Within minutes, every major space agency and defense network on Earth knew something not from here had arrived. And it was watching. The ship stayed still for hours. It gave off no heat signature, no radio noise, no signs of life. Yet it was clearly alive in some way. Its surface rippled like liquid metal under sunlight, shifting colors from deep black to faint violet. Scientists argued over whether it was a probe, a weapon, or a message. World leaders held emergency calls. Some wanted to shoot first. Others begged for patience. But before any decision could be made, the ship spoke. Not with sound, but with light. A soft pulse of blue radiated from its hull, spreading across the planet like a ripple in water. Every screen on Earth, phones, televisions, satellites, even old radios, flickered to life with the same image. A tall, slender figure with silver skin and large, dark eyes. It raised its hands, palms open. Then in every language spoken on Earth, a voice said, "We come in peace." The message repeated for exactly 60 seconds. Then the screens went dark again. Silence returned, heavier than before. The beings called themselves the Virith. They claimed to be explorers from another galaxy, part of a group called the Galactic Concord, a union of advanced civilizations that shared knowledge, protected peace, and welcomed new members who proved themselves worthy. Their ship, they explained through translated signals, was a first contact vessel. They had watched Earth for years, waiting for the right moment. Now they wanted to meet face to face. The United Nations scrambled to respond. A neutral site was chosen, Geneva, Switzerland. A temporary embassy was built near Lake Geneva, made of glass and steel, designed to be open and transparent. Security was tight but not aggressive. The Virith had made it clear they would leave if met with weapons or fear. Among those chosen to represent Earth was Lisa Monroe. She wasn't a soldier or a politician. She was an aerospace engineer from Colorado, known for designing communication arrays that could talk to probes near Pluto. She understood signals, patterns, and silence. The UN needed someone who could listen, not just to words, but to what lay beneath them. Also selected was Ben Carter. He had once studied marine life in the Gulf of Mexico, but after a research trip to Papua New Guinea, he became fascinated with how humans created language from nothing. He learned 7 dialects in 5 years, and later helped decode early alien-like signals from deep space. Just static, but he found rhythm in it. Now he was Earth's best hope for understanding what the Virith truly meant when they spoke. The first meeting happened on a cool spring morning. Mist hung over the lake. The Virith ambassador, a being named Zara Vaughn, stepped out of a small shuttle that had detached from the mothership. She moved gracefully, barefoot on the grass, her silver skin catching the light like polished stone. Her eyes were deep and unreadable, but her posture was open. She bowed slightly. Lisa and Ben stood with a small group of diplomats. No one wore uniforms. No one carried weapons. They wore simple clothes, jeans, blazers, comfortable shoes. They wanted to show the Virith that Earth was not a planet of soldiers but of people. Zara spoke first. Her voice was smooth, almost musical, translated through a small device on her wrist. "We have traveled far to find you," she said. "Your world shines brightly in the dark. We wish to learn from you." Ben smiled gently. "We're glad you came. We have many questions." They talked for hours. The Virith explained their history, how they had united their own species after centuries of war, how they built cities that floated among stars, how they healed broken planets and helped young civilizations grow. They spoke of harmony, balance, and shared destiny. Lisa listened closely. She noticed something odd. Every time Earth's representatives mentioned struggle, poverty, war, climate disasters, Zara's eyes flickered just for a second. Not with pity, with something else. Assessment, maybe, or judgment. Later, in a quiet debriefing room, Ben turned to Lisa. "They're testing us," he said softly. "Not with questions. with silence. They're watching how we react to our own pain. Lisa nodded. And they think we'll flinch. But Earth didn't flinch. Over the next few days, people around the world sent messages to the Vereth. Not demands or threats, but songs, poems, drawings, recipes, videos of children laughing. A farmer in Kenya sent a photo of his first harvest after a drought. A teenager in Brazil uploaded a guitar cover of a Vereth melody she'd heard in the broadcast. The Vereth received it all without comment, yet from orbit their ship remained unmoved. No more messages came. No invitations to join the conquered. Just waiting, Kyle Dawson, back on the space station, kept watching the data. Something felt off. The Vereth ship gave off no emissions, but its energy field pulsed in a strange rhythm, like a heartbeat. And every few hours it sent out a tiny encrypted burst toward Earth's atmosphere, too small to be a weapon, too precise to be random. He flagged it to his superiors, but they told him to stand down. First contact is delicate, they said. Don't stir trouble. But Kyle couldn't shake the feeling that the real test hadn't even begun. Meanwhile, in Jakarta, a strange flu began to spread. It wasn't deadly, but it made people dizzy, confused, and unusually emotional. Hospitals filled quickly. Doctors were baffled. The symptoms didn't match any known virus. News reports called it Jakarta syndrome. Within 2 days, cases appeared in Manila, Mumbai, and Lagos. Panic started to ripple through social media. Governments urged calm, but fear grew like a weed in dry soil. Lisa saw the reports and felt a chill. Ben called her that night. It's too fast, he said. Too coordinated. Natural outbreaks don't jump continents in 48 hours. They looked at each other over the video call, both thinking the same thing. But neither said it aloud, because if they were right, then the Vereth weren't just visitors. They were examiners, and humanity was taking a test it never knew it had signed up for. The sickness spread faster than anyone expected. In Jakarta, schools closed. In Lagos, markets emptied. People stayed indoors not because they were told to, but because they felt strange, lightheaded, anxious, as if the world had tilted slightly off its axis. Doctors ran tests, but the virus left no clear trace. It didn't kill. It didn't even cause fever, but it made people doubt themselves, made them argue over nothing, made them feel alone even in a crowd. Maya Ruiz saw it first. She was an epidemiologist based in Manila, used to tracking outbreaks in crowded cities. When the first reports came in, she thought it was just another flu strain. But within hours, she noticed something odd. The patients weren't coughing or sneezing. They were crying. Not from pain, from confusion. One woman told Maya, "I don't know who I am anymore." Another man kept asking if the sky was real. Maya called her contacts across Southeast Asia. Same story everywhere. The symptoms matched perfectly down to the hour. That wasn't natural. Natural diseases moved like rivers, slow, winding, uneven. This moved like a net, cast wide and pulled tight all at once. She sent an urgent report to the World Health Organization. At the same time, Kyle Dawson, still monitoring from the space station, noticed something new. The Vereth ship had released a tiny cloud of particles near the upper atmosphere 3 days before the first case appeared. The particles were gone now, absorbed or vanished, but their chemical signature matched nothing on Earth. He compared it to the timing of the outbreak. The match was exact. He tried to raise the alarm, but his message got stuck in layers of protocol. "We can't accuse our guests without proof," his commander said. Wait for official channels, but Maya didn't wait. She gathered local health workers, nurses, volunteers, anyone willing to help. They set up testing tents, not to find a cure, but to calm people down. They played music. They handed out water and blankets. They sat with the sick and just listened. Slowly, the panic began to ease. People started helping each other. Neighbors checked on elders. Teenagers delivered food on bikes. The virus hadn't gone away, but its power was fading, not because of medicine, but because of kindness. Back in Geneva, Ben Carter watched the news with growing dread. He remembered how Zahra's eyes had flickered when Earth's flaws were mentioned. Now it made sense. This wasn't an accident, it was a test. The Vereth wanted to see what humanity would do when pushed, not by war or invasion, but by something quieter, sneakier, doubt. He called Lisa Monroe. "They're watching how we fall apart," he said. "Or how we don't," Lisa agreed. She had been studying the Vereth's communication patterns. Their language wasn't just words, it was layered with emotional tones like music. And in every message there was a hidden question. Are you strong enough to hold together when the ground shakes? Ben knew they needed proof. Not just suspicion, but something solid. He reached out to Derek Holt, a UN liaison officer known for cutting through red tape. Derek listened, then nodded. If you're right, we're not dealing with diplomats. We're dealing with judges. With Derek's quiet approval, Ben and Lisa began digging. They couldn't access military satellites, but they didn't need to. They turned to civilians. Amateur astronomers, drone pilots, radio hobbyists, people who watch the sky for fun. They asked them to record anything unusual near the Virith ship. Within days, they had hundreds of clips. One showed a faint shimmer dropping from the ship's hull 3 nights before Jakarta's first case. Another captured a low-frequency pulse aimed at Earth's ionosphere. Lisa ran the data through open-source software. The pulse matched the emotional disruption patterns seen in patients. It wasn't a virus. It was a signal, a psychic nudge designed to amplify fear and isolation. They didn't infect us, Lisa said, stunned. They whispered to us, and we listened. Ben felt sick. Dozens of species had vanished from galactic records after first contact with the Virith. Now he understood why. Fail the test and you'd disappear, not with a bang, but with silence. No one would even know you were gone. They took their findings to Derek. He didn't argue. He didn't hesitate. He arranged a secret meeting with Zara under the pretense of discussing cultural exchange. Ben and Lisa would be there, hidden in the next room, listening. The meeting happened at dusk. Zara arrived alone, her silver skin glowing in the fading light. Derek spoke calmly, asking about Virith history, their values, their view of younger species. Then he asked, "What happens to civilizations that don't meet your standards?" Zara paused. For the first time, her voice lost its smoothness. "The conquered believes in growth," she said. "But growth requires stability. Chaos cannot be allowed to spread." "So you remove it," Derek said. "We protect the whole," she replied. Ben and Lisa heard every word through the thin wall. They exchanged a look. There was no anger in Zara's voice, only certainty. To her, this wasn't cruelty. It was duty. After the meeting, Derek told them the truth. The Virith had run this test before. On 23 worlds, only 2 had passed. The rest? Quarantined, forgotten, erased from star maps, but we're passing, Lisa whispered. Look at Jakarta. Look at Manila. People are helping each other. Maybe, Ben said. But the Virith don't care about kindness. They care about control. And right now, Earth looks messy. Unpredictable, they were right to worry. From orbit, the Virith observed the response with cold interest. Yes, humans were helping each other, but they were also arguing online, spreading rumors, blaming governments. To the Virith, that looked like weakness. Instability. A species that couldn't govern its own emotions was dangerous to the galaxy. Zara sent a private message to her council. Subject shows resilience but lacks unity. Recommend final trial. The final trial would be worse. Not a whisper, but a storm. Back on Earth, no one knew what was coming. But Maya kept working. In Manila, she organized community circles where people shared stories instead of fears. In Lagos, a group of artists painted murals of hands holding each other across city walls. In Jakarta, a boy uploaded a video of his grandmother singing an old lullaby to calm his sick sister. The video got millions of views. People started singing it everywhere. The Virith sensors picked it all up. They saw the chaos, yes, but also something else. A thread of connection. Thin but unbroken, running through billions of lives. It didn't make sense to their logic. How could a species so divided also be so stubbornly together? Zara watched the lullaby video 3 times. She didn't understand the words, but the tone, the softness, the love made her chest ache in a way she couldn't explain. Still, she reported to her council. Prepare the drones. Begin simulation protocol. High above Earth, hidden bays opened in the Virith ship. Hundreds of small, silent drones detached and drifted toward the planet. They carried no weapons, only illusions. In 3 days, they would make every human believe an alien fleet was attacking. Cities would burn in their minds. Governments would fall in their dreams. And the Virith would watch to see who ran and who stood. But they didn't know one thing. Humans had lived through nightmares before. Wars, plagues, disasters. And every time they rebuilt. Not because they were perfect, but because they refused to stop trying. Ben, Lisa, Maya, Kyle, and Derek didn't know the full plan yet. But they felt the shift in the air. Something was coming. And this time Earth wouldn't just react, it would respond. The sky changed first, not with fire or sound, but with silence. One morning, people woke to find their phones showing the same image. A fleet of dark ships hanging over major cities. New York, Tokyo, Cairo, Sydney. News channels cut to emergency broadcasts. Air raid sirens wailed in places that hadn't heard them in decades. But no bombs fell. No lasers fired. The ships just hovered, watching. It was all fake. The Virith drones had flooded every screen, every speaker, every network with a perfect illusion. To the human eye, the invasion was real. To the human heart, it felt real. Panic should have spread like wildfire. Governments should have collapsed. Armies should have fired blindly into the sky. But something unexpected happened. In Houston, a group of high school students noticed the drones didn't move like real ships. They flickered slightly at the edges, like a bad video. One kid named Trey posted a clip online with the caption, "This ain't real. Check the shadows." Within an hour, thousands of people were testing it, shining flashlights at the sky, filming reflections in windows. The fake ships cast no shadows. That small truth spread faster than fear. In Nairobi, street artists didn't hide. They painted over boarded-up shop windows with murals of Earth surrounded by hands of every color. One read, "We've been scared before. We're still here." Crowds gathered not to run, but to add their own messages. A grandmother wrote her granddaughter's name. A baker drew a loaf of bread. A child drew a cat with wings. The art became a shield. In Reykjavik, a drone malfunctioned and crashed into a park. Instead of screaming or calling soldiers, locals walked over with thermoses of tea. One man named Einar tapped the drone with a stick. It beeped softly. A woman named Hildur offered it a cookie. "If you're lost," she said, "you're welcome here." The moment was filmed on a phone and shared worldwide. People laughed through their fear. That laughter was louder than sirens. Ben Carter watched it all from Geneva. He saw cities lighting up with rooftop signals, Morse code messages spelling calm in flashlight beams. He saw farmers in Iowa using tractors to spell together in freshly plowed fields. He saw kids in Mumbai playing a new game called Alien Defense, where the goal wasn't to shoot the invaders, but to feed them, talk to them, make them friends. The Virith had expected chaos. Instead, they found creativity. They had expected leaders to take charge. Instead, ordinary people led each other. Lisa Monroe worked nonstop in a makeshift lab under the UN building. She used open-source code and borrowed servers to track the drone signals. She discovered they weren't just broadcasting images. They were reading human reactions. Every scream, every prayer, every act of courage was being recorded. This wasn't just a test of survival. It was a test of spirit. She called Kyle on the space station. "They're measuring our soul," she said. Kyle had his own discovery. The Virith ship was sending data back to its home galaxy in real time, but Earth's own satellites, old forgotten ones, were picking up the signal too. He rerouted power from non-essential systems and tapped into the stream. What he saw chilled him. The Virith weren't just watching. They were scoring. Each act of panic lowered humanity's number. Each act of kindness raised it. Right now the score was neck and neck. Maya Ruiz back in Manila turned hospitals into community centers. Doctors treated the few who fainted from stress, but mostly, they held hands and told stories. "Fear is real," Maya told a group of nurses, "but so is hope. And hope spreads faster if we let it." She organized calm walks through neighborhoods. No talking, just walking together, breathing together. People joined by the hundreds. In other cities, others did the same. Silent marches filled streets from Buenos Aires to Seoul. No flags, no chants. Just presence. Derek Holt coordinated quietly with leaders who understood the truth. They didn't announce the illusion. That would cause more panic. Instead, they encouraged local solutions. "Trust your people," he told a general in Berlin. "They know what to do." And they did. In Chicago, a retired teacher opened her home as a truth house. Anyone could come in, ask questions, and leave with facts, not rumors. In Jakarta, fishermen used their boats to form a giant circle in the bay, lights glowing on the water like a promise. In Oslo, a choir sang on a rooftop, their voices carrying over the fake warships, singing an old song about spring returning after winter. The Virith watched, confused. Their models had no category for this behavior. Why weren't humans fighting each other for survival? Why weren't they blaming outsiders? Why were they turning toward each other instead of away? Zara Vaughn stood on her ship's observation deck staring at Earth. Her psychic senses, designed to read fear and aggression, were overwhelmed. She felt sorrow, yes, but also joy. She felt worry, but also trust. It was like listening to 1,000 songs at once, all in different keys, yet somehow forming a harmony. She called her council. "The simulation is failing," she said. "Not because they see through it, but because they don't care if it's real. They choose to be kind anyway." Her council was silent. This had never happened before. On Earth, Ben stood on a hill outside Geneva, watching the fake fleet hover over the city. He wasn't afraid. He pulled out his phone and played a recording, a lullaby from Jakarta, a child's voice singing to her sister. He let it play into the night air. Somewhere above, a Virith drone tilted slightly as if listening. Back in Houston, Trey and his friends finished building a device from old radio parts and a microwave. It didn't destroy the drones. It sent them a message, a simple pulse that said, "We see you. We're not afraid." The drone nearest to them flickered, then went dark, not broken, but quiet. Like it was thinking, Lisa received a ping on her laptop. One of the drones had responded. Not with words, but with a pattern, a repeating sequence that matched the rhythm of a human heartbeat. She showed it to Ben. "They're starting to understand," she said. Ben nodded. Maybe they needed to see us not as a threat, but as a mirror. The fake invasion continued for 3 more days, but each day fewer people believed it. Each day more people chose to build instead of hide. By the 4th morning, the sky cleared. The ships vanished from every screen. The drones powered down and fell gently to the ground like seeds returning to soil. No one celebrated with fireworks. They celebrated by opening their doors, by sharing meals, by saying thank you to strangers. The Virith ship remained in orbit, silent once more. But this time the silence felt different. Not like judgment. Like wonder, Zara sent a private message to Earth, not to governments but to the people. It was short. Just 3 words translated into every language: "Show us more." And Earth, tired but unbroken, began to do just that. The silence after the fake invasion felt heavier than before. People went back to their routines, but nothing was the same. They had faced a ghost and chosen not to run. That changed something deep inside them. In cafes, in classrooms, in quiet homes, conversations turned from fear to purpose. "What if they come back?" someone would ask. And another would answer, "Then we'll be ready, not with guns but with open hands." But not everyone felt hopeful. High above Earth, the Virith High Council watched the data streams with growing unease. Their scoring system had broken. Humanity's resilience index kept rising, but it didn't follow logic. It rose when a child shared bread. It rose when a stranger hugged someone crying on a bus. It rose when a city turned off its lights for one night, just to show the stars to the aliens. These were not actions of a controlled, orderly species. They were messy, unpredictable, and powerful in a way the Virith could not measure. Zara pleaded with her council to give Earth a chance. "They are not weak," she said. "They are different. And difference is not danger." But the hardliners disagreed. Led by a stern elder named Kor, they argued that unpredictability was the greatest threat of all. "A species that cannot be predicted cannot be trusted," Kor declared. "They may smile today and burn galaxies tomorrow. We have seen it before." The council voted. By a narrow margin, they activated Protocol Omega. No one on Earth knew at first. The decision was made in secret deep inside the Virith ship. But Kyle Dawson noticed it. From the space station, his sensors picked up a new energy buildup in the mothership's core. It wasn't like the drone signals. This was darker, colder. He ran simulations. The pattern matched theoretical planet-killer weapons, devices that could crack a world's crust like an egg. He tried to warn Earth Command, but his message was blocked. "You're causing panic," his superior said. "The Virith are our guests." Kyle didn't argue. He knew words wouldn't help now. He opened a private channel to Lisa Monroe. "They're going to destroy us," he said. "Not as punishment, as prevention." Lisa's hands went cold. She called Ben, Maya, and Derek in a secure video loop. They stared at each other, faces pale. No one spoke for a long time. Then Ben said, "They think we're chaotic. But chaos has a rhythm. We just need to show them the music." Lisa remembered something from her early work. how human brain waves sync when people feel strong emotions together. Love, grief, hope, even fear if shared. The Verith used empathy fields to read emotions across space. What if Earth didn't hide its feelings? What if it sent them all at once, every heartbeat, every tear, every laugh as one signal? It's crazy, Maya said. But so was singing to a drone, Derek nodded. We can't fight their weapons, but maybe we can break their certainty. They split tasks. Lisa would design the broadcast system. She called every engineer she knew, college friends, old co-workers, even hobbyists who built radios in their garages. Within hours, a global network formed. They linked satellites, cell towers, radio stations, and even smart speakers in homes. The plan was simple. At a set time, every device on Earth would send out one signal. Not sound, not light, but raw emotional data collected from volunteers. Ben worked with poets, musicians, teachers, and healers. He asked them to gather people and guide them through a shared moment. Not prayer, not protest, just presence. Think of someone you love, he told a group in Mumbai. Feel that warmth, hold it. We're going to send it to the stars. Maya organized medical teams to help people stay calm during the broadcast. She knew strong emotions could overwhelm the body. So she trained volunteers to lead breathing exercises, to hold hands, to remind each other, you're not alone. Kyle, from orbit, prepared the final piece. He hacked into decommissioned weather satellites and reprogrammed them to amplify the signal. It was risky. If the Verith detected it, they might fire early. But he had no choice. This was Earth's last voice. The day came. Clear skies, quiet winds. People gathered in parks, in living rooms, in hospital beds. In Nairobi, the street artist painted a giant heart on the ground. In Reykjavik, Hildur brought cookies again, this time for everyone. In Jakarta, the grandmother sang her lullaby one more time, her voice shaking but steady. At exactly 8 p.m. Geneva time, the world went silent for 1 minute. No cars, no phones, no noise, just breath. Then, as one, humanity exhaled. Every screen lit up, not with images, but with color. Soft gold for love, deep blue for sorrow, bright green for hope, red for courage. The signal wasn't words. It was feeling, pure, unfiltered, and true. The Verith ship was hit like a wave, their empathy field designed to read single minds drowned in the flood. On the bridge, Zara gasped as billions of lives poured into her senses. She felt a mother's worry in Buenos Aires, a farmer's pride in Kenya, a teenager's dream in Seoul, a soldier's regret in Moscow, a child's wonder in Sydney. It wasn't chaos. It was a symphony. Core shouted orders to fire the planet cracker beam. But the crew couldn't move. Their minds were full of human joy, human pain, human stubborn light. One officer dropped to his knees weeping. Another whispered, "They're beautiful." Zara stood at the center of it all. Tears, real, silver tears, ran down her face. For the first time in her life, she felt small, not weak, just small in the face of something vast and kind. She reached the ship's core controls. With shaking hands, she overrode Protocol Omega. The beam powered down. The countdown stopped. On Earth, people didn't know what had happened. They only knew the sky felt lighter. They hugged strangers. They cried without shame. They went home and called someone they hadn't spoken to in years. Kyle saw the energy drop on his screen. He let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Lisa collapsed into a chair, exhausted but smiling. Ben looked up at the stars and whispered, "We did it." But the real victory wasn't survival. It was understanding. The Verith had come to judge humanity. Instead, they had been changed by it. Zara sent a new message, not to leaders, but to Kyle, Lisa, Ben, Maya, and Derek. Just one sentence. Teach us how you love like this. And for the first time, Earth didn't just have visitors, it had students. The Verith ship did not leave. Instead, it opened. Not with weapons or demands, but with an invitation. Zara Vaughn stepped onto the grass near Lake Geneva once more, but this time, she carried no translator. She had learned enough human words to speak plainly. "We were wrong," she said. "We thought strength was control. You showed us it is connection." The Galactic Conquered was stunned. No species had ever changed the Verith's mind. Councils across star systems watched as Earth was not just welcomed into the Conquered, but honored. Humanity would not sit at the back of the room. It would help write the rules. Lisa Monroe became Earth's first ambassador. She didn't wear a fancy uniform. She wore jeans and a sweater, and she brought a thermos of coffee to every meeting. Her job wasn't to argue or negotiate. It was to listen, and to remind the galaxy that peace isn't the absence of conflict but the presence of care. Ben Carter opened the Xenocultural Exchange Institute in Montreal. It wasn't a school in the old sense. There were no tests or grades. People came to share stories, cook meals, plant gardens, and learn how to say I see you in 100 different ways. Fearith students sat beside humans, learning to cry, to laugh too loud, to hold silence without fear. Ben taught them that language isn't just words, it's the space between them. Kyle Dawson and Maya. Ruiz led a new project called Healing Worlds. They traveled to planets the Concord had once tested and failed. Places where civilizations had been left to rot after failing the Virith's trials. On one dusty world, they found survivors living in caves forgotten for generations. Maya set up clinics with local herbs and earth medicine. Kyle helped rebuild communication towers using scrap metal and hope. They didn't bring orders. They brought questions. What do you need? How can we help? Back on Earth, life didn't become perfect. Storms still came. People still argued. But something had shifted. Children grew up knowing their species had faced gods and won, not by fighting but by being human. In classrooms, teachers told the story not as a warning but as a promise. You belong to a people who choose kindness even when it's hard. The Virith stayed. Not as rulers but as neighbors. They built a small embassy in Reykjavik, next to the park where Hildur had offered a drone a cookie. Tourists came to see it, but mostly, locals came to leave small gifts. A drawing, a seashell, a note that said, "Thank you for staying." Zara often walked the streets alone. She visited markets, libraries, bus stops. She watched how humans touched each other. A hand on a shoulder, a hug that lasted too long, a stranger helping an elder cross the street. She began to understand what the broadcast had carried. It wasn't just emotion. It was trust. The quiet belief that someone else would catch you if you fell. One evening, she sat with Lisa on a bench overlooking the lake. Your species frightens me, Zara admitted. Not because you are strong, but because you are soft and still unbroken. Lisa smiled. Softness isn't weakness. It's how we bend without breaking. In Nairobi, the street artist painted a new mural. This one showed Earth and a Virith ship, connected by threads of light. Under it, in Swahili and English, it read, "We are stronger together." In Houston, Trey and his friends built a new device, not to jam signals, but to send music into deep space. They called it the Lullaby Beacon. Every night it played a different song from Earth, a grandmother's voice, a choir in Oslo, a child humming in Jakarta. Ships from other worlds began to slow as they passed through the solar system, just to listen. The Concorde changed too. Old laws were rewritten. The tests were banned. New members were welcomed not for their perfection, but for their potential. And whenever a young species showed fear, the Concorde sent not judges but humans. They brought tea, stories, and the simple truth. We've been there too. Derek Holt retired from the UN, but not from service. He started a quiet network of peacemakers, farmers, teachers, nurses who traveled to places of tension not to fix but to sit. Peace isn't made in rooms with flags, he said. It's made in kitchens, in fields, in the space between two people choosing to stay. Years passed. The Virith ship remained in orbit, but it no longer felt like a visitor. It felt like a friend. Children waved at it from backyards. Astronauts shared coffee with Virith engineers on spacewalks. And every year, on the anniversary of the broadcast, Earth went silent for 1 minute, then erupted in noise, bells, songs, laughter. The sound of a planet alive and grateful. Zara never returned to her homeworld. She chose to stay to learn to grow. She adopted a small garden in Geneva, where she grew earth flowers that bloomed in strange colors. She named her favorite one Hope. One day, a young Virith asked her, "Why did you stay?" She looked at the sky, then at the ground, then at the faces passing by on the street. Because here, she said, even broken things grow into something beautiful. And in the stars, other civilizations began to wonder. They had spent eons chasing power, speed, knowledge, but humanity had something they lacked, not because it was given, but because it was chosen again and again, in small moments no weapon could measure. The ultimate force in the galaxy wasn't the one with the biggest ship or the sharpest mind. It was the one that never stopped believing in tomorrow, and never stopped reaching for the hand of the person next to them. Earth didn't conquer the stars. It taught them how to shine.